what we told Natan Obed is that these processes have already been established. So when we look at the modern treaties, we know that we have to abide by the regulatory and the environmental assessments, and that's what we're going to do.
Okay. Does that say anything about the process that you're engaging in? Like, do you think what you're doing is working?
Well, my understanding is that once a project has been identified, then there'll be certain conditions that are put in place. And so then we need to follow what those conditions are. So there's still that opportunity to work through the finer details. So that's what these processes are about. So today it's a listening session. We're hearing about, the interest of Inuit, and it's what I'm noticing is that it's well coordinated. So when we think about, what are the projects that are on the table, the Inuit have already identified, several projects that are of national interest to them. So the type of coordinating that they've done so far to this point is reassuring that we're moving in the right direction. And our job is to show up and to listen and to meet them at the tables where they've been sitting to get to the point where they're at.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, just kind of reiterating, just thinking of a local perspective. I know our locals are very concerned about, they're not really interested in Arctic security military-wise, but addressing our housing crisis and our drug crisis, and even just access to tourism development. Just wanting to know if there's any priorities around that.
Yeah, so the priorities are being established by the Inuit in the north. So if there are concerns around impacts to the environment, those are concerns that we're going to take seriously, and we're going to work through them. As you know, we have to work through the modern treaties, those environmental assessments, and we have to live by the highest standards to ensure that we're following through with our own policies and regulations too. Yeah.
Can I just ask you, just when it comes to C5 and the work that you're doing with Indigenous peoples, whether that's Inuit, or First Nations, soon you'll be meeting with Métis, what are the next steps in this process? Because yes, you might have one Indigenous group that seems to be on side, but you do have others that have still concerns.
Yeah. So obviously we want to make sure that we're understanding where communities are at in terms of readiness. So if communities are at the consultation stage, then that's the starting point. But if communities feel that there's been a lot of consultation already, that they've already identified their own national projects of interest, which is what the Inuit have done, what we're hearing here, but if we're still trying to figure out, okay, what does consultation mean, then that's the starting point. So when we think about the First Nations Summit, for example, we heard a lot of grievances from communities. We heard a lot of, there's still outstanding commitments that we're waiting on before we support Bill 5. So that means we just need to take it a few steps back and continue to work with First Nations communities on identifying the consultation process that will then lead to decisions around, what are the national projects of interest, right? So that's kind of where we're at. We're trying to work with where people are at, our different nations, and then we keep moving forward from there.
Does that mean that, it seems like Inuit communities are ready to move forward? Like you said, like they're well prepared. You notice that in these meetings? Does that mean that we could see projects listed in, the Inuit homeland sooner? And if so, when?
Potentially. So yes, we are hearing a list of national projects of interest from the Inuit. It could signal that, maybe there will be announcements. When, I don't know. But again, there are other conditions that we have to look at, and that's the process that we're looking at first. So these are the beginning of these engagement sessions. At which point we get to announcing national projects is yet to be determined, because again, there's a number of unknowns at this point that we need to keep working through.
Can you share what types of projects you're hearing interest about?
Yeah, we've heard like Grays Bay and Port is, an example of a national project of interest. The Kivalliq Hydro Line is another project of interest. There are a number of others, but those are just two examples just off the top of my head.